The age-old saying, treat people the way you want to be treated. Well, we flipped that on its head today on the coaching podcast. Instead, treat people the way they want to be treated. Understand the person first. Thanks to my good friend and National Tennis Director for Lifetime, Gordon Reid. Lifetime's a company that owns and operates 190 plus athletic country clubs across North America. 35 of these locations have tennis as a primary area of focus. Gordon and I unpack what it takes to create great tennis programs, pathways, great customer service, and the importance of always having a deep learning well. Looking for a coach but not sure where to start? Think of Sam as a matchmaking service without the romance. Sam connects you with the right coach for you at the right time so you can focus on growing and not searching. Discover your perfect coaching fit at trysam.ai. G'day everybody and welcome to yet another episode of the coaching podcast. Gordon Reid, well, what a pleasure it is to have you on the show after seeing you in person very recently and working with you 10 years ago. Reconnecting and just to watch your career evolve has been a true joy and a true honor. So firstly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Coach Emma. It was so great to reconnect with you, a few weeks ago, and a pleasure to get to see you again in such a short time. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are not watching this on YouTube, I do have a fortune cookie tennis ball in my hands here. So the opening quote is up to you, Gordon. Do you want one from the middle, the top, or the bottom, or?
Let's go from the middle.
From the middle. Look at that. Meet me in the middle. One of my favorite songs. Don't worry, everyone. I'm not going to sing today, so you don't need to worry. All right. Here's the quote that I'd love for you to reflect on. The fear of losing is twice as powerful as the hope of winning.
The fear of losing, twice as powerful as the hope of winning.
All right. And this is the winner of a Nobel Prize in economics and author of the New York Times bestseller, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Daniel, which I have read. Daniel Kahneman.
Yes. Thank you for taking. I didn't know how to pronounce his surname. You see, so fancy that. You've read it, so yes. Take it away. What are your thoughts on that quote?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I just watched between Roland Garros and even the WTA 500. Somebody was talking. I think for Roland Garros, it was McEnroe talking about how much he hated to lose. Hated to lose more than he loved to win. So I think for each individual, you have to find what is your main motivating factor for success. And so for some, it is, I hate to lose so much that I'm not going to let it happen.
Yeah. And on the flip side, if you pay too much attention to the fear of losing itself, isn't it? The quote's kind of beautiful because you can take it either way. So many players that I've come across and people, even in the workplace, have this fear of losing or the fear of giving someone some feedback. And it can be such an overwhelming feeling that they don't act on it.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Because fear can be paralyzing. So they're not able to act in the most productive manner that's going to give them the chance of the success that they desire.
Yeah. When you look back on your career, Gordon, this whole motivation, we're either motivated towards pleasure or away from pain, right? When you've made some of the best decisions in your life, have they been to avoid pain or have they been towards something that you really want?
Great question. I'm going to go with the latter. I feel like for me, my success, to the degree that I've had some, has been me moving towards pleasure. And it's not so much my own pleasure, but it's what I perceive as the people that I'm serving, whether it's been my fellow coaches, whether it's been our members, whether it's been the students that I'm working with directly, how can I help them achieve the things that they want from a success perspective? And when I'm able to do those things, again, whether for my fellow coworkers or the people that, report to me or the people I'm on court teaching, it's really trying to help them. And then through that, I derive quite a bit of enjoyment.
Thanks for sharing that, because, I was reflecting on this recently myself, and every great decision I've made has been towards something that I want. And sometimes we don't always know what we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even helping my nieces right now through some tricky times,
Mm-hmm.
they know what they don't want.
Sure.
So
Yes.
I know that you're the national tennis director for Lifetime. I mean, that's a ginormous company, right? A company owns and operates 190 plus athletic country clubs across North America. So in that role of, let's talk about people wanting to work for Lifetime and onboarding with you as it relates to coaches, how do you help them with their career? Like, what are some of the ways that you get to know what it is that they want to do, or do young coaches not know what they want to do or how they want to specialize? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I would say, when we're talking about young coaches, a lot of times when they come into the profession, they're coming in from recently having played, successfully, whether that is college, at most to some degree on the tour. So when they come in from that recent experience, most of them are looking at, I want to work with high performance players, right? So if I'm going to be coaching juniors, I want to be coaching the best juniors. Uh, Most often, they're not yet equipped with all that type of job encompasses. And so my challenge then is to make sure that they recognize you could do that at some point in time, but you're going to need to learn how to exist within an athletic country club. And that means you're going to learn how to coach red ball and orange ball and green ball. Why are those important? Well, you need to make sure you understand what happens at all facets of the junior program. You're also going to work with beginning adults, intermediate adults, and advanced adults for the same reason. You want to understand what takes place in all areas of the club, because for the club to be successful, for you to even have a chance of having performance juniors to work with, you need to make sure that the entire foundation of the program is solid. So the other piece too, I think that gets neglected is, when you're a tennis teaching professional, you're working when other people have leisure time, right? Which means, at best, you've got some Monday through Friday work, but more than likely you're doing evenings and weekends as well, right? So I think that oftentimes the picture that is painted as far as being a tennis teaching professional is different than what reality is. So making sure that any new person coming in has a good understanding as to, here's what a week, month, season, year look like in the life of a tennis teaching professional.
So, having said that, how do you make it attractive? How do we attract younger coaches? That's the reality of the job. And just a quick side note, I heard a story to be a manager at Whole Foods. You have to work in every part of the store before you can be a manager, right? So I absolutely love that. And people in the workplace listening to that, never underestimate the power, even though you're hiring for a certain role, to expose people to all aspects of the business.
Yes. Yes.
And how do we attract, acquire, and retain coaches when knowing that it's not an easy job from a
Right.
physical perspective and a time perspective? So what are some of the creative ways that at Lifetime that you incentivize coaches?
Yeah, so really making sure that they can understand all the different options that are available to them as a tennis teaching professional. So whether it is somebody has aspirations of becoming, a national tennis director, for example, or the tennis director, or an assistant director, or a program leader, whether that's performance or it's adult programming. So making sure that they understand all the different options that are available to them. The other piece too is I don't think that there's a ton of people out there who are currently teaching. I've been at my location now 34 years. When I started 34 years ago, I did not imagine I'd still be here.
Yep.
I thought it was going to be a pit stop on the way to something else, right? So many of the people that have been here nearly as long as me, longer, or half as long, 17 years, the same is the case for them. They weren't in college or in high school thinking, I'm going to be a tennis teaching professional for my life, right? So making sure people know that you can stay in the profession and make it a lifelong career, or it can be a pit stop to something else. What I'm also seeing happening now, Emma, which excites me, is people that have a career that's far different than being a tennis teaching professional. They work in that career, and then in their 60s or 50s, they decide, all right, I've done that thing. That was the method of paying my bills. Now I want to do the thing that I'm really passionate about, and that is coach tennis, right? So those are a couple of neat things that I find, and whether it's a pit stop that helps you and propels you into some other career down the road, or it was supposed to be a pit stop and then you realize, wow, I really like this, and I can do things in leadership and management and mentoring other team members while I'm also coaching. There's many different avenues available.
So what would you say is the best mentoring advice that you ever received?
It would be to have an open mind with regards to many opportunities that are out there for you, right? So it's to say yes to, especially early on in your career, because every opportunity that is available to you can become a stepping stone and can help you gain more experience and more knowledge, as well as more connections. And it helps you learn more about yourself, because even saying yes to something that ends up not working out is still feedback for you for the future, right? And there are many situations where you might say yes to something that you were apprehensive about and had some concerns as to how it would work out, end up working out incredibly well, right? So yeah, it would just be open to opportunities, and then give your best when you get those opportunities.
Lifetime. I mean, the company, it's a clever name in itself, isn't it?
Yes.
From that perspective. So please share anything around how that came about, because I have no idea the name of it and the birth of it. And I want to touch upon, I've been to many Lifetime clubs. It's really so much to do with service and customer service, and the subtleties and the soft skills which are so critical in business. So just coming off court for a minute, put that hat on and share, if you don't mind, around the birth of Lifetime itself. So I don't know much about that. And also, what's the customer service piece that is so critical in the people that you're working with?
Yeah. So, if I talk a little bit about our founder and CEO, Bahram Akradi, um, he had a vision close to 30 years ago of having a place where people could work on and improve wellness, right? From the ground up. So I've been fortunate because Lifetime purchased the club that I'm at, the club that I'm based out of. It'll be 20 years ago at the end of July this year, right? And so from a customer service perspective, it's something that we've had instilled in our culture really from the beginning, and making sure that, we look at really the service profit chain, right? So Lifetime believes that it's important to support and do a really good job of taking care of the team members. If we do a really good job of taking care of our team members, then in turn, they'll do a great job of taking care of the members. And if those two things are happening, then, the company will be successful, from a profit perspective. And truly, we're fortunate to have somebody like Brahmakrati as a visionary and leading our company and recognizing situations that require us to make changes. And despite the fact that we're an enormous company, he's always wanted us to be nimble as well. And so he's made a point of making sure that that is the case. As far as customer service, you're right, we talk about it all the time, but we have a culture also of learning, which means that we've got our own platform called the Learning Well, where every team member, as they are onboarded and hired, they have to go through a number of modules. We have Lifetime University, where there's tons of courses that people can take to improve their knowledge base, and that they can then help propel themselves to promotions within the company, or simply they become, more marketable and end up leaving the company and go on to, bigger and better things in other organizations. So it's always been something that's at the forefront of our business. And I'm glad that, as you have come to our clubs and you witness it firsthand. I'm fortunate enough to get to travel across the country to see our other clubs, the tennis ones mostly, but also ones that don't have tennis. And it's quite amazing to know how many clubs that we have and the consistency across them, and that we're not close to being done as far as growing. And we never think we've arrived at, oh, we're perfect with customer service. We're always looking to improve. Our CEO, when he started our business, saw how other clubs were run. They had yearly contracts. He didn't like that. So we don't have yearly contracts. Little things like clubs then you paid a quarter to use a locker. You paid a quarter to get a towel. So we weren't going to be doing those types of things. So he really, I would say, broke the mold in terms of how clubs operated 25, 30 years ago. And now more clubs operate like we do, right, from that perspective. And again, he's not done innovating.
Are there any intangible or tangible communication go-tos, guides when people do come under your umbrella? Like, are there some things that this is non-negotiable?
Yeah. Eye contact is huge. That's really important. Being a good listener when you're talking with our members, as well as your fellow team members, treating people with respect. And we try to take, I'd say, the golden rule even further, right? The golden rule would be treat people the way you wish to be treated. What we would say is treat people the way they wish to be treated, right? So we want to make sure that we've got, a model of where we're centering our approach around the member, right? And that trickles down to even our teaching methodology. We've got a student-centered approach of teaching, and that's different than a coach-centered model, right? And talking to, a coach as experienced as you can understand the difference between those two, right? So those are really some of the things that are important to us, because we want to make sure that, we're treating the member in a way that makes them feel that when they come to our clubs, that it's a home away from home for them, right? And so the way that we need to maintain the facility, the way that we need to treat the people within the facility, as I mentioned, from team members to members, is paramount.
And speaking of paramount, you and I off air have spoke about the super importance of retaining, women in the industry. Why is that important to you?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of tennis players, both juniors and adults, and I'd say we probably have a little more than 50% of our overall players are women. And it's important that the women that come into our facilities to learn and get instruction have an opportunity to have that done by their same gender, right? And so that's been a struggle in the industry for a number of reasons, but it's really important that we find ways of making sure that we've got good diversity on our coaching staff and that it's not just a staff of men, right? There's men, there's women, there's people of different ages, different ethnic backgrounds and religions, different sizes. All of those things are going to be really important. And so, because ultimately we want to make sure that tennis is an inclusive sport. We're not going to grow tennis if we're only looking at one demographic or two. We need everybody to feel as though tennis can be something that they can participate in. And so making sure we've got enough women coaches that feel comfortable coming out and working for us and that we're able to not just acquire them to coach for us, but we're not looking for a bunch of turnover on that. We want people to decide to work with and for us and want to stay with us for years to come. That's really important.
Yeah. And I'm sure that diversity and that vision of the coaching staff is important for new players, like the onboarding process of new players when they can see and feel is a great word too, comfortable that they belong.
Yes.
I'm sure is a huge part of everything that I've experienced firsthand. And of course, 10 years ago, we did the women's luncheon, 500 women every
Yes.
year coming to, I was fortunate to do the keynote on that around strengthening that inner voice.
Yeah.
So important. Future-based thinking. My top tip from that talk was the power of next time, right? Because we're not perfect and we don't always get it right. But next time, what are we going to do differently and how are we going to improve? So let's go to the holy grail question of coaching. Seems quite a pivotal moment in our chat to ask you in 1 to a maximum of 3 words. What do you think makes a great coach?
A great listener.
You're an exceptional listener. Did that come naturally to you, or do you think it's a learned skill? And what are some of the ways you can support people to improve their deep level listening?
I think it may have come naturally to me. My mom is a fantastic listener, and people always came to her with situations, and I found that I followed in those footsteps. However, I'm a big believer, and if my kids were in the room, they would roll their eyes as I say this, that most everything in life is a skill that can be developed and honed and improved over time. So, I listen to podcasts. My wife and I, in fact, before we even became a couple, she reached out to me before Christmas and said, "Hey, there's a master class, end of year deal, buy one, get one free." And so I bought it. I shared it with her. She paid me back half, whatever. And then, 2 months later, we were dating. So,
There was what was a master class in what specifically?
It was not in dating, but trust me, if anyone needed that, it was me for sure. So, but I think it's important, and maybe this is partly lifetime. So, I love education. So I love to teach and coach, but I also love to learn. And so I've tried to learn different things about like how to become a better listener and how to, there's times where people just need you to listen and they're not looking for a solution, right? And there's times when people are looking for a solution and for listening. So recognizing and reading the room and reading the moment. But I absolutely think it's a skill that can be developed. And I think it's underrated without question. You want people to, if you're coaching tennis, if you're coaching anything, you have to listen to your audience and understand what it is they're looking for so that you can provide that for them, right? And so yeah, I think to be an excellent coach, you have to be able to listen, and listening isn't always just with your ears. It's also with your eyes, because you need to see what's going on. And somebody could be telling you something, but their body language and their face could be meaning something entirely different, right? They might be telling you what they think you want to hear, but it may not be the truth. So I really feel like the listening piece is of such great importance. And we have to get out of that mindset of, well, I'm just not good at that, whatever that may be, right? I would add, and again, if my kids were in the room, they'd roll their eyes because they know what I'm going to say next. I'm not good at that thing yet.
We said it at the same time. Did everyone hear that?
Did.
We did. We did. That's right. Not yet. The power of not yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all on a path of continuous improvement over time, right?
Absolutely. And
just like your speech, just like your keynote years ago.
Absolutely. And let's talk about pathways. Let's talk about, as I mentioned to you off air, right? This morning, I'm with my 2-5 ladies that I met during COVID, and the end of the first lesson, they were playing the game of tennis by the end of the first lesson, right? And they, even the first moment, they're like, aren't you going to tell us how to hold it and how to stand and how to swing? I said, well, just show me what you got and we'll go from there. If you're holding the wrong end of the racket, then you're probably not going to have that much success, right? So
we've got some work to do.
I know you're passionate about pathways. I know Lifetime do a great job. And please, everyone listening to this, even if you're a workplace manager, leader, coach, levels, pathways, levels, use, like, for example, the ball is a tool. So even no matter what you call your levels, people love to see improvement. Correct. They love to see a pathway. If I start here, where am I going? Where am I heading? Because we want them to become lifelong or lifetime members of the club and feel like they belong and all those wonderful things. So how do you do your, let's go your adult beginner pathway? What makes it unique? What's a secret sauce that you do that would be really helpful for other coaches listening?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked the question, because it's a huge part of what we do. We have our adult beginners start with a red ball. And we use the service boxes as the court size. And within the first 10 minutes of lesson 1, our students are rallying. We start with a self rally with a red ball. We move to a partner-based program where you and I have one ball between us and we're bumping the ball up. We're not even using a net. And then we transfer from that to bumping the ball back and forth to each other, also without a net. And then we start to go over a net. So our adult beginner pathway is a play, learn, love program. And that program is designed to have people rallying in their first lesson and playing tennis. We go through forehands, backhands, forehand, backhand volley, and a serve, all within the first 90 minutes of that class. It's a 3-class progression. It's red ball, then orange. And from there, it's complementary. So that means every Lifetime adult member has the opportunity to go through those 3 classes with no charge. And then from there, we try to progress them into an orange ball or a green ball league or weekly mixer. And I think what makes our program unique is not just that we use low compression balls. And we've been doing this program since 2017 or 2018. So we're 8-9 years into it, and it's been a huge success for us. But the next stage from there is, if somebody is able to move from green ball to a yellow ball and get into 2-5 and 3-0, fantastic. There's a segment of the population where that just might not be feasible. And orange or green ball is kind of where they may end up staying. And that should be okay too. And I would say that even a little less than a decade ago when we started this program, most of us had the thought process of, we're trying to get them to yellow, right? Like that has to be the goal. If we don't, then we failed. And I think that was the wrong approach. And so I would argue even today that many 2-5 players would be better off playing with a green ball. They'd have much more enjoyable rallies. You know, we've all, as a coach, seen a group of people, you know, whether it's 2 people playing singles or 4 people playing doubles, a flat yellow ball gets in the mix and they have the most amazing rally of the day. And the coach knows the ball's flat, and that's why they're having such a good rally. The players have no idea.
Yep.
Right. So anyway, so that's really a big part of our adult program. And if we don't do an amazing job getting new beginners into tennis and keeping them into tennis, and some of them progress to 4-0, maybe even 4-5 at the high end, and some of them only get to 3-0 or 2-5 or orange or green ball, that's fine. They're still playing tennis. And from Lifetime's perspective, they're still coming in and frequenting the club on a regular basis. If I maybe add one more piece to that, it's, we recognize people play tennis for a multitude of reasons, right? As you know, some people play it because they want a social component to their life, right? They want to meet new people and hang out and do fun things with them, right? Some people play tennis because they want activity, right? So it's exercise. Some people play tennis because they are competitive and they're looking for competition, right? Others may play simply because they like learning a new skill. So our job as a lifetime teaching professional is to find out which of those 4 or which combination of those 4 reasons people are playing tennis for, and guide them down that path so that they can, achieve their objective.
Yeah, tailor the approach, because often there'll be a primary objective and even a secondary objective.
Correct.
And
exactly.
That's just as important for kids as well, not just adults.
Right.
Everything we're speaking about sounds easy on the surface, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and you and I, we get along great, so we're on the same page. I'm wondering, have you ever really have you had a moment of struggle where you're like, whoa, this is hard? Because not everyone listening to this can say, oh yeah, great, Gordon and Emma, sounds great on the surface, to listen and not yet, and give these pathways. Have you ever had, if you don't mind sharing, maybe something personal, just to say, you know what, we're human, and maybe there was a moment of struggle where you were able to say, thank God I'm a coach, that I've got the skills to get through it.
Sure.
Yeah, if you don't mind being vulnerable, I feel like that could really
goodness.
connect.
Oh, yeah. I've had plenty of struggles.
Yeah.
I'd say those maybe close to me, maybe wouldn't. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Those close to me would know of those struggles. Those that are not super close to me, I probably hit it well, just because I'm generally a pretty positive. Upbeat person.
Same with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, partly why we get along so well. But yeah, we had struggles at my facility. For a few years, we were just not hitting on all cylinders that I felt like we should be hitting on. So I don't think somebody from the outside necessarily would have come and thought, gee, this place isn't doing well. But me personally, I would see our participation numbers, I would see our revenue, and we weren't hitting our budget. right? And Lifetime is a performance-based company, and so that's an important part of being a successful leader, being a leader at all, right? So I had a good couple of years that it was stressful. It created certainly some anxiety for me. I tried not to pass that on to my fellow co-workers or my leadership team as well. I don't know how successful I was at shielding them from what I was feeling, because that certainly wasn't going to help us at all either. But yeah, it was, and it certainly took its toll on me, I'd say physically to some degree. Again, not that I think a bunch of people would have looked at me and thought that dude needs a break or needs a different job or what have you. However,
Yeah.
I know that that's how I felt.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
so that was a difficult time.
how did you, was it one thing? Like I mean, I know over time how did you get through it?
Yeah, I would say, you had to try to break things down into, small manageable pieces,
Yep.
because you can't, what's the saying? I'm going to get it wrong. How do you eat an elephant?
Mm.
One bite at a
One bite at a
time.
time. Yep.
So I just had to try to break down our program into small pieces. And, I had to look at a number of different areas. Our junior program isn't one thing. We've got red ball, orange ball, green ball, yellow ball, as well as performance, right? And same thing, our adult program was not one thing. We've got our play, learn, love, which is our beginner, low compression ball pathway. But then we've also got, adult leagues and adult drills and adult mixers and things of that nature. So I had to really look at each component independently and try to tackle one or two of those components at a time. And then, I had to look at staffing as well. And so, over a couple of years, we were able to make some shifts and some changes. The pandemic hit in the middle of that too, which of course made it challenging. But in all honesty, not that I would ever wish a pandemic, but as you know, in life, you are thrown curveballs and your challenge is to figure out ways of navigating them. And tennis, I'm super proud of how tennis navigated the pandemic. And we're fortunate in many ways because whether it's playing against somebody, you're not worried about the distance, social distancing wasn't a problem. The people that came back to our club first were the tennis players, so we, in my opinion, life led the comeback of members into our club at the clubs that have tennis for Lifetime. Those clubs really started to reach their performance metrics sooner than clubs that didn't have tennis, so there were a lot of different things that happened. But yeah, I was able to get through it, and I've got a great team of people. I'm so fortunate with not just the pros that I work with, but also my leadership team here at this club and the people above me at the corporate office. So I'm pretty lucky in many respects.
In the business coaching world, we call that chunking. Such good advice. Chunk it into manageable pieces. So if you're listening to this and you are struggling or experiencing overwhelm, even a bit of burnout, take some time to chunk it down into what you can control each day. And the other message I heard in there is to talk about it, rely on your team, right? Yes,
Yes.
we're a shadow leader, and as you say, not many people would have noticed on the outside, and those people that are in your support network, reach out to them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, can't do it all on your own.
cannot do it all on your own. Gordon, you are a great listener. You are a great coach. You have an open mind. You do say yes to all my crazy ideas, even when I call you last minute and say, let's have dinner. He says yes. He says
It was
yes,
amazing. It was
even though he's
amazing.
busy. Treat, I love this one here too, to wrap up this episode. Treat people the way they want to be treated. The golden rule, with eye contact, listen beyond the spoken word, listen with your eyes so that we can play, learn, and love. And finally, the last thing that I loved, learning well. How cool is that from a
Yes,
language
exactly.
perspective?
Yes. A
It's
well
a
of
well
learning.
because
Yes.
it's not like, it's not like, oh, I've got to the end and that's it.
No,
The
it's
well,
never ending.
never ending. So please, coaches out there, remember, if you haven't mastered something, not yet, keep at it. And thanks for being vulnerable. Thanks so much for being on the coaching podcast, Gordon Reid. Appreciate you.
My pleasure, Emma. Thank you so much for the invitation. Happy to do it. And so wonderful to see you having the level of success that you have worked tirelessly for decades. Keep up the
Well,
amazing work.
as you both know, we're overnight successes 20, 30 years later, whatever age we are. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. Does not matter.
Yeah. And everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to give it a rating and a review on your podcast listening device. Thanks for listening.